Hey, you're here with your girl, Corinne Lafont. Let me make sure that my volume is good so that you can hear me. Wonderful. I hope that the internet is going to be good to us today. I see I was having a bit of trouble earlier, so I hope it holds out. Yeah, I know it's prime time and a lot of kids are home. Everybody's home because it's Easter vacation. So it's a lot of stress on the bandwidth. But we're going to keep pushing. You see me looking down because I'm looking at my phone. Because today is another episode in PR FAQs. Yes, PR FAQs. And that's public relations frequently asked questions. So I come on here after persons submit questions to me and I answer them publicly. If they wish or if they want me to answer it privately, I can also do so. And this is really an initiative that I started about a week and something ago. So it's not necessarily a particular day, it's based on the question, and I will come on a live stream to answer it. Should you wish to for me to answer a question, feel free to look in the description below. There is a link there with your link that you can look into and submit your questions. Feel free to share the response to this question. Feel free to not agree with me. Feel free to comment, like, and engage while I'm on this live stream. Okay? So this question today is coming from Shirley. I want to thank Shirley for the question. I really appreciate the question she has asked. And I have a number of other questions that I'll be coming to you with responses in the coming weeks. So I look forward to getting your question so that I can answer it live. Okay. And of course, mentioning you. Yes, that is awesome. So Shirley's question is, let's see here now. Should a PR, sorry, should all organizations have a PR department? And she went on to say, to share with me, that she worked in hospital, and I'm just reading from my phone, see? She worked in hospitality for several years and never worked with a PR department. Each department handled their own PR. So let me make sure I understand that clearly. She works for an organization, and of course, there are different departments in an organization, and she never worked with a PR department, meaning a department that represents the entire organization. Each department in that one organization handle their own PR. Okay? I want you to follow this. She also went on to add that she could see the danger in this, that whole setup and system, when there is a crisis and someone needs to speak on behalf of the organization. And I want to acknowledge that and say she's absolutely correct in saying that. And why is she correct in saying that? She is correct, and let me just put on my phone here. She is correct in saying that because an organization is one entity, and I don't want people to think, let's define an organization first to begin. An organization is one entity. It's an organized group of people with a common purpose. It doesn't have to be a physical brick and mortar entity. A lot of us, when we think of an organization, the first thing comes to mind is brick and mortar. When I say brick and mortar, I mean a physical building. Okay, somewhere that you can actually walk into, there's a reception, etc., etc. Organizations doesn't have to have a brick and mortar setup. And not because we're in a pandemic, COVID means to say it is now virtual. It has always been like that. An organization is a group of people with a common, an organized group of people. Okay, that's where organization comes from, an organized group of people with a common purpose. So you don't have to have a physical place or entity to go to. All right, so now that we understand that, if there is one organization, okay, and we'll digress a little bit in terms of that. If there's one organization and you have several departments, which is understandable, you might have accounting or finance, HR, procurement, different departments dealing with different aspects of the business. You should ideally have one department representing that organization, a centralized unit that is dealing with that. In the same way as that you would have HR dealing with hiring for the entire organization, you should have corporate communications or public relations as one unit representing the entire organization. Now, let's say that organization has multiplied itself and has expanded into other countries, or even within its own country has different branches, etc. It should have a centralized PR or corporate communications. However, it can have representatives, sorry, there's a little fly, representatives of PR in those other entities. But everything should come through that centralized unit, or that centralized unit should be really responding, as a matter of fact, to anything concerning the entire organization, but pulling on the resources from the other locations. Okay? Now, if the organization is in other countries, you're talking diversity, culture, language, all of that. Now, if something happened in those particular countries, doesn't matter where it is, you're looking at how would people respond to something happening there. Now, you have to take into consideration, as I said, the culture, the diversity. So they may have the representative for PR there in that particular organization, in that particular location or country, should coordinate with the headquarters, corporate communication in headquarters, and advise them this is what is happening, because there will be nuances, differences that you have to take into consideration. How we would respond to something here in Trinidad may not necessarily go down too well, let's say in a Spanish-speaking country or in a Dutch-speaking country. You have to really understand the nuances and the diversity, the culture, the people, the environment, the situation, how to say things, language, the tone, who is mentioned. It's a number of things, and I can't really get into specifics with that. It depends on what the crisis may be or the situation may be that you want to share. Now, if it's a generic response to something, you're bringing out a new product, I mean, you can have a generic response throughout about that. But when it comes to a crisis, you have to take into consideration the people, the environment, the situation, who is involved, the culture, the diversity, the language. You have to consider all of that. Now, coming back to the question that Shirley mentioned about different departments responding, and in a crisis, what can happen? If you have PR in every department in one organization, the problem or the challenge that can happen there is, and they're doing their own PR. That's what I'm saying. Each department is doing their own PR as opposed to a centralized PR department. You have different messages going out. You have different interpretations, different perceptions that will create confusion. You need to have, and also for integrity and for branding. Integrity in the sense of who is sending out this message. You can't have a multitude of people responding on behalf of the organization. There must be a spokesperson, one person that is out there that represents, that's the face, the brand, the person that they associate this company with. That person is out front and center responding on behalf of the organization. No matter what happens, that is that person, unless they have a designate. And the designate should be someone higher up, depending on the gravity of the situation. And to me, it shouldn't matter the gravity of the situation. Nobody really wants to hear from somebody, and I don't want to make this seem belittling, but somebody in a lower rank in the organization. You want somebody who is handling it, and you want to see the higher up. So the CEO, the managing director, whoever it is, the chairman, they must be front and center with the corporate communications manager or director, whoever it is. People want to see that it's coming from the head. It's being taken charge of, it's being taken hold of. So if you have persons in every department handling their own PR. It's a confusion of message. It will affect branding. It will obviously affect your audience out there because they don't know what's going on. They're seeing one message here, one message there. And as Shirley mentioned, she gave an example. Sorry. She gave an example of a case study, which I haven't read yet, of RBC some years ago that it costed them millions when they didn't have something proper in place with communications. And yes, it will cost you millions if you don't do the right thing or think it through or consider a whole 360 approach when responding to a crisis. You need, and for integrity as well, you want to know who the moles are. There may be some people, even within the organization, especially if you have a situation of every department running their own PR as opposed to a centralized unit representing the organization. You don't know who is carrying news, bringing news, the integrity of the information coming to you and outflowing from you. You need to have a tight grasp on that. You need to know who is bringing information, who is carrying out information, what is being said. You need to know because that can put you into a deeper crisis and more of a tailspin, and you find yourself in a whirlwind trying to deal with the first thing, then the second thing come after, and it's just a constant struggle. You need to know. So you need to have the department tight. Everybody has their own responsibility. You know who is to do what. There is a track of emails or communication amongst the people in the department, so you can tell you were the one responsible for saying this, or you were the one responsible for sending this information or sharing this, and you can cut them out because they're actually jeopardizing. They're actually jeopardizing the brand, the company, the image. They're putting the company more at risk, and of course the executive of the company at risk. Let me just see here. Right. So that is really my response to that. So should an organization have a PR department? Yes, or a centralized unit? And I mentioned for various reasons. They should not have PR happening in each department. It should be one centralized unit where it's one message, because that's what PR is about. One message, not several messages or several perceptions of the message. One message going out, and you know who is giving out that message. If it's the spokesperson, the Corpcom director or manager, whatever you want to call him or her, as well as the CEO or the managing director. It must come from the top people who you are serving, your audience, your stakeholders, your beneficiaries, the people who are invested in your company. Want to see who is taking charge of the situation. It cannot be any little person who is standing up there, and I don't mean to belittle anyone when I say little. You don't want anybody standing there fielding questions from the press or sending out information to the press or answering for the company, and they can't respond in an appropriate, professional manner that maintains the integrity of the organization and preserve the privacy and security and safety of the people that the organization serves. I hope this response answers your question. I'm sure persons will have their own take on it. Of course, there's much more to it. I'm not going into detail because there may be different scenarios that requires different responses. Should you have a question, like I said, please feel free to check the link below. There is always your link. You can send in your question to which I will respond publicly if you wish, or privately. And of course, you can follow me. You see my website below, lafontaneassociates.com. Feel free to check me out there. And of course, everyone knows how to reach Corinne. You could just Google me. I am just all over the internet. And of course, if you go to my website, which is right below, my email, my contact, everything is there. If you have any comments, rebuttal on this, or you agree or disagree with me, please feel free to say. I love the engagement. I don't think I'm perfect. I don't know everything, and I'm open to discussion with anyone on this. Feel free to check me out. And of course, my services are always open to persons who are willing to engage me. Check my website. You can use the contact page. As soon as you go to LaFont and Associates, there is a little box that shows up about how to contact me, and you can reach me there. And I can send you a quote if you desire, or if you wish to even have a consultation with me, there is a consultation tab on the website. You can book a consultation with me, a 15 minutes consultation to dig in a little bit deeper, and let's see if we are a good match. So take care and have a good day.